Planning is the system by which we control development in this country, and it is made up of two processes. On the one side, you have the planning process, on the other side, you have the democratic process. The planning process is a series of acts, laws, and policies set at government level, which set the agenda. So there will be a policy on the environment, on the landscape, on the historic buildings, on townscapes, on transport, etc., etc., etc. So this is set at the national level, and it filters down to the regional level and then down to the local level. So local authorities will then take the planning framework, the national planning policy framework, and they would set it for the local context. So when a planning application goes in, the planning officer will then send the planning application to relevant consultees, which are relevant to that project, whether it is to the environmental agency, to the conservation officer, or whether it is to all highways or all the myriad kind of agencies that they go to. They will also put out notices, and the planning application will make public, so the public will have a chance to respond to the application. So this takes a whole long process. If at the end of towards the end of the period, everything has been sorted out, the planning officer has the power, delegated powers to approve the planning application if there are no objections or if all the objections have been met, all the technical objections have been met. If there are any issues, or if it's a major project, or if there are many concerns, then the planning application goes to a planning committee, and this is where the democratic process kind of takes over. The planning officer can make a recommendation, and what we try to do is work with the planning officer towards a recommendation for approval, but then it goes into the committee, and the committee can choose, will have their own discussion, and they will have their own responses, and they can choose to take the recommendations of the officer, or they can go against the recommendations and refuse a planning application. So this is the difference between the planning process and the democratic process. One can never guarantee that a project will get planning approval, because there's so many factors, so many things can impact an application, and it's very hard to foresee what the issues are at the beginning of the project. So we have a three-step process to planning. The first step, which we highly recommend, is to do a pre-planning application. So this is the pre-planning application process, which test drives the planning feasibility for the proposal. Stage 2 is post-feasibility. We'll get the feedback comments from the planners. We will know which specialist reports or surveys we might require. So we'll put together, based on the responses, we will develop the scheme towards a planning application, and we will also manage the various consultants and specialists that we need and the various surveys that we need to build a case for the planning application. Step 3 is how do we deal with the planning committee issues. Now this is a bit trickier because it's a democratic process, and it's more unpredictable. So this one, step 3, we cannot guarantee, but we can give advice, and we take it on a case-by-case basis. If it goes to planning committee, we would work with the client and work with our consultants. We would check with our planning consultant as well. What is the best approach to dealing with planning committee? So in summary, planning is made up of a planning process and the democratic process, and we recommend 3 stages towards this.